Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Fringe Talkback, actually my penultimate Fringe Talkback. My name is Kate Coley, and I am the 2020 Cincy Fringe Talkback producer. And this evening, I am back with Alex Rouse, this time to talk about Stow Your Baggage. Alex, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited. Anyone watching, be sure to drop some questions in the Facebook comments so that I can ask them to Alex, and you can get your answers, just like if we were at the bar. So, I want to get started with my first question, which is that this show is a compilation of your real life experiences. So, what is it like writing from your own life? Tell us a little bit about your process in cobbling together actual real life experiences into a play.
So honestly, I think the thing that I've always felt when I'm a writer is I have a harder time writing not from my own life experiences. I actually sort of live my life in a way that I'm like, well, even if this blows up, it'll be funny eventually. So I really, it was really interesting though, because I think that there's such a different way of expression of the way that you would like tell something silly at a party than like a way that you would present it in an artistic form. And basically, my process has sort of just been word vomiting all of it at like my mentors and then having them be like, these two parts of your 30-minute rant were important and lovely, and then expanding on that a little bit more. So I really love writing from my own life. It's actually something that comes the most natural to me, but I think editors are the most important if you're going to be doing that.
Yeah, so that actually ties me in perfectly to my next question, which is about your collaborators on this project, who were Erica Kate McDonald and Paul Strickland, who we love and are Fringe veterans just like you, who were the director and dramaturg, respectively. So tell us a little bit about how they came onto the project, what the process was like, and what sort of role they played in that editing and turning a funny story into an artistic representation.
Sure. Yeah. Well, if Paul and Eric are ever involved in anything that I've made, you should just know automatically that I have like little sister poked and bullied them until they were kind enough to be my artistic mentors. I love them very much. They are my Fringe mom and dad and like my family. But they were wonderful because actually the genesis of this play is that a year after all of this happened, we were sitting in a kitchen at 2 a.m. in Edmonton at Edmonton Fringe, and I was talking about how, because they are my friends as well as my artistic mentors, and they were along with me the entire ride of like, I'm gonna be a flight attendant, I guess. I don't know.
Wow.
So, yeah, look, so they were but we were talking about it, and since we'd moved through it, and we were all like, yeah, I was like, I really, really want to write a storytelling show about flight attendant school. I just don't know where to start. Like, I'm really bad with structure. I'm not sure what to do. And Paul was like, I mean, like, you have the structure. The structure is of a flight. And we were like, oh, and like all three of us at 2 a.m. were like, yeah, exactly. And it was really sweet. It was really lovely. And Paul had actually, I met Paul first, and then Paul connected me with Erica because they're both perfect. And Erica had dramaturged and directed my first solo show. So then Paul came in because we knew this one was going to be funnier. So I just mined him for all of his stand-up joke tips, and this show would not exist without them. But I'm very lucky that they're my artistic mentors, and they were so freaking stupidly helpful, as they always are.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I think that it's so hard to write from personal experience. Like, how do you write from personal experience without a sounding board like that?
Oh yeah.
You know, because you're like, well, I know how it happened to me, but is that interesting, question mark?
Right.
You know, and that's always sort of the question when writing from a personal narrative is like, I hope this is entertaining to an audience, not just like my buddies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that this show having the framework of it being the flight totally works. And even watching it digitally, since this is a flashback, you know, I still felt like I was at the Fringe because Papa Fringe Joe Mock was there.
Yes.
You know, which is like the
so glad
perfect
that was
word to have.
recording.
So I was like, I'm totally at the Fringe right now. This makes perfect sense, which was really, really fun.
It's so bad.
So we talked about this a little bit last time we had our talk back for Quit While You're Ahead, which if you watch Sew Your Baggage but not Quit While You're Ahead, what are you doing? Go watch it while you still can. CincyFringe.com, get your tickets. So talk to us a little bit about your production company, which is A to Z Productions, how that artistic partnership came about with the Z of A to Z, and your decision to start your own production company, your vision for the future of it. Just tell us a little bit about that like we did last time.
Sure. So A to Z Productions is run by both Zach and I. Zach is the Z of A to Z Productions, and if you were here like 10 minutes early, you would have seen an amazing outtake of him moving the cats away. Um, but it's interesting because I never really thought that like making art with an artistic partner was something that I needed to do. But as we started to work
Mm-hmm.
through serials and as we started to like work on fringe projects together, we realized that our skill sets really complement each other really well, and there's something really like lovely about working with the person that you love. And we had a lot of mentors and friends along the way who were guiding us. Like Erica and
Mm-hmm.
Paul are definitely like some of our biggest ones, but we didn't want to just kind of constantly glom onto them, because I think my first solo show I actually produced under their production company, and we were like, well, they worked really hard to build this and we have a mission, so let's like make this as part of our identity of silly theater for serious people, and just like move forward and try to figure out what we like, and then like
Mm-hmm.
try to make it into some sort of open and full thing that can encompass all of the silly stuff we do, whether like we want to do a crazy podcast in the future, or whether we're like,
Right.
hey, come look at like my suicide charts and my weird like flight attendant solo show. Like it's a
Totally.
yeah, so that's sort of how it all came together.
Great. That's so cool. So we actually have an audience question that just came in from
Ooh.
Ricky and Dana,
Hi.
and they want to know, what are you working on now, and do you have any plans to do Stow Your Baggage again?
I would love to. I would really love to when the world opens back up. My hope was quietly to take it to either Orlando or someplace in Canada. So
Mm-hmm.
cross fingers for next year. But right now, I'm doing a lot of writing for some of Travis McElroy's podcasts. So I'm writing a lot for Schmanners, which is a very cute etiquette podcast him and his wife have. And I'm also just sort of like taking a quick break and trying to figure out where my next play is going to show up, because I have a
Mm-hmm.
couple of I really want to write something, but I don't want to write something I feel lukewarm about. So I'm like doing
Totally.
a lot of fun research stuff and hoping that at some point during the weird COVID silliness, it'll like dawn on me the next thing that I want to write. Because I would love to do a
Yeah.
third solo show. We have a joke that because my first one was about cars, that I have to do one about a train, so we can do the plane, trains, and automobiles trilogy. So like, if anybody wants to
Yes.
pay for a train ride for me, what's going on?
That that could be amazing. I mean, we have Amtrak, however
Right?
reliable it may be.
Yeah. And
I'm all
unreliable
about
means a story, so
I'm all about the Amtrak solo show future.
yes.
Anything I can do to make that happen, let's do it. I love that idea. That's
I will
perfect.
put you on as a producer. We'll make it
Okay,
happen.
great. We'll make it happen. I'm in. Awesome. See, live collaboration in action.
You're all getting to watch. Look at this.
Yes. So this show tells us about the power of quitting something that you hate doing in a different way from quit while you're ahead. It's sort of a, the theme is there, but this goes a different direction. There's the don't quit just because you've peaked, and
Mhm,
there's the go ahead and quit if it's terrible.
mhm.
So this is obviously a sort of an atypical piece of advice, because we tend to hear, I think, especially as artists and creators and young people, like, you just got to grind, and it'll work out eventually, and just put in, pay your dues, put in the work. But obviously that attitude just didn't jive with you for flight attendant school. So tell us a little bit about who you want this message to reach, and anything else just around your experience that you want to make sure people are taking home with them from that.
Sure. That's a really, really good question, because I think that the message of the like quit if it is terrible is exactly what I wanted people to take away from it, because I do think a lot in like the late stage capitalism hellscape we're living in, there is a ton of like, thank God it's Monday, just keep grinding, hustle, girl boss, blah blah blah. And I think a lot of that is repackaged in a way that's like you're building a thing, when a lot of the time it's like the larger machine taking advantage of your soul and
Totally.
your life force.
Mm-hmm.
um, and what I would like people to take away from this, and I think from all my shows, because it's a little bit of an undercurrent in all of it, is that you have a voice within you that actually knows when you should keep grinding, and and that same voice will tell you when you're allowed to walk away. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think that there are lots of people that have built lives on the idea of like, it'll work out, it'll work out, it'll work out. But if you can be grinding and sleepy and still feel like yourself. But if you're
Yeah.
like grinding and dying and it doesn't feel true to you, and it doesn't feel like you're really
Mm-hmm.
working towards something that is within your own heart, then
Yeah,
you're allowed to walk away. And I think that more of us need the note that we're allowed to walk away for that exact same reason. I think,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm kind of sad that's atypical advice, and that's part of
Mm-hmm.
the reason I wrote it. Is that, like, yeah, grind is good if it's a thing that you want to grind for, but
Totally.
to your soul when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm curious if there are things you've read or listened to or people who've helped you develop the ability to listen to that voice that says like this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. Because I think that, as you said, so many of us were trained in this system to just keep moving, and it can be hard to actually tap into the voice that's saying, please stop. So
Right,
yeah.
right. Oh, that's a really my instinct, like my coping mechanism instinct was like, well, I've been on Zoloft for about a year, but that's not
That,
exactly the answer. It helps.
it
It's a big deal,
helps.
man.
It
It's a big
is.
deal.
I'll talk
Um,
all day about Zoloft. I'm with
yes.
you.
If Kate and I are having a private conversation, I'm going to need you
Yeah,
to know
sorry.
it. But that's a really lovely question, Kate, because I think that the biggest thing for me is I've been lucky to have a lot of very good people in my life who haven't necessarily wanted to like crush my voice or turn away from me, and because of
Hmm.
that, I have a pretty decent radar for when people are trying to do that. And something that I think kind of got me to trust my inner voice a little bit more was taking note of the people that I felt at home with. And then
Mm,
also the note of taking the note of people that like I was getting along with, but it wasn't quite like I felt like I sort of had to sidestep to like
mm,
be a certain way around them. I think just keeping constant surveillance of your environment and how you feel in your environment is really important, because something that actually got cut from the show is I had three best friends in flight attendant school. They were mentioned like really quickly, but they're wonderful human beings. One of them is still like one of
hmm.
the most interesting people I've ever met. Like they're all three of them are lovely and gorgeous. And I remember I held on for so long because I didn't want to like get like be done with them. But I actually was on
Right.
the phone with Robert Mackey, and he was just like, yeah, but like, how do you feel when you're around them? Like, do you feel like you have to do something you don't want to do just because you don't want to lose them as friends? And I was like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go home tomorrow. Like, it was just,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think
Yeah.
keep searching for it. It'll come out if like you keep looking around and
Mm.
finding the people that are meant to be there.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. It's like even when we don't have people immediately literally around us, we still have people in our circles.
Yeah.
And I think this show really tells you about like look at who's in your circle. Even though those, best friends aren't mentioned heavily, you talk about I forget his name, but the guy who you see just walk out without a
Yeah.
trace.
Yeah.
And for me, I loved how you were so honest about like, well, if that person can do it, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And now I'm just speaking off my own experience, but I think that we need more people to look at and be like, well, if they can just walk away from something that's toxic or not working for them, we need to also. Coming off of college for me, I think about all the unpaid internships in that world.
Mm-hmm.
Anything where you're sort of in an apprentice situation,
Yeah.
there's such opportunity to be taken advantage of or to
Absolutely.
convince yourself of something.
Yeah.
So I loved watching this and being like, God, it's so good to have a person who can show you or tell you just stop, you know?
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you. And
of course.
that's sort of why I wrote this, is that I want to be other people's Bobs.
Yeah.
It still makes me laugh because I don't think my friends know that the flight attendant show exists, but I don't know. Bob is in the wind. Like I don't know if he was real. I know that I have memories of his face, but like, are we sure? But no, I think that also was a big turning point too, because when I saw him
Hmm.
walk away, I think the things you celebrate are also very telling of like where you're actually supposed to be. Because I remember when he walked away, I was like, this is like the end of Avengers Endgame. This is fucking Superman. This is ever like I was like losing my mind, and
Yeah.
everybody else like being so just like, oh God, he's gone. I was like, oh, this isn't where I'm supposed to be, and it's so important if you can be that for somebody. So I'm just
Hmm.
trying to be everyone's Bob. Like you can
Yeah.
walk away if you need to.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I was just going to ask you something, but it flew out of my head. Well, for now, I'll ask you, where can we find more of your work? What other work can we learn about? You talked a little bit about your podcasting,
Yeah.
but tell us about how we can continue to support you, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, the quick and easy answer is I'm Alex Rouse on every social media platform, like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm very bad at Twitter, but I'm trying my damnedest. If you want to follow the Shmanners podcast, that would be awesome. Follow anything that Travis McElroy does. I probably like kind of help with some of it somewhere. And if you would really like to support me, I would really like you to all donate to the Cincinnati Bail Fund or any other Black Lives Matter movement that you possibly can, because I do not want to make art in a place that does not accept and love and take care of its citizens. So that is, if don't follow me before you go give at least $1 to the Cincinnati Bail Fund.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We have another audience question that just came in.
Yeah, good.
Nicole is asking on behalf of Josh Wallace, when you watch this show a year later, what stands out to you most?
um, oh God, that's a great question. I am endlessly, the thing that I think stands out to me most is I am endlessly tickled and amused that the Fight Club movement piece is a fucking thing I got paid for. Like the fact that
Yes.
exists out in the world. And like I always loved it. And I walked around Fringe all of last year being like, I'm making money to like movement piece my
Yes.
favorite movie, and it makes sense. And watching it this time, it's funny because I feel like every time I watch the show, and probably until like I'm 80, I'll watch that show and be like, I can't believe I got away with this. Like, I can't believe I did it, and I can't believe that like it didn't look like I was actually insane.
Well, it wraps up so perfectly with the punchline of like, that was your in-flight movie. You know, I was like, I got tricked. That was brilliant.
Thank you. That was my favorite line to deliver the whole time. And it was funny because like I always hoped that people laughed because I needed to breathe, because that's the most
Yeah.
and that's the first time I like stop and it would just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'd be like, please laugh. Please laugh. I need to okay. Like it was a very, very silly thing.
I love that. Oh, that reminds me of another question I had, which was how much did any audience interaction, especially like the pouring a drink sequence,
Yeah.
how did that change from audience to audience?
I was really lucky that everybody was really cool about it, and for the most part I knew the people because it was real bourbon. I don't think that was allowed, but it already happened, so sorry, Doug. But like but I was pouring but I would normally see people in the audience and I would kind of like try to figure it out, but for the most part I was super nervous about audience participation, because a lot of the time if I'm doing storytelling I'm like, everybody shut the fuck up, I need to be in this, I'm very scared. But everybody was so welcoming and lovely, and I think like on opening night people that were in coach, because I had people, first class was the front row and then coach was in the back. I was handing waters to people in coach and it was like silly and wonderful, and everybody was really great. They were really good sports about all of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Let me think. I had another question that I was going to ask, and it was something that I don't have written down.
We're going to talk about something else, and like feel free to totally cut in because it'll pop into your brain.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about, I guess my question, here's a logistical question, is this show, obviously it comes from like the flight attendant school, but it goes all the way back to this childhood experience. So did that childhood experience come as you were writing the flight attendant story, or was it when did you have that moment of like, oh, this is like that other time in my life where I had this same, legs carrying me to do something idea?
Yeah. That's a great question. Paul and I talked about that a lot, and I think we went through a lot of different things. Like we went through a lot of different potential stories, because it was funny that we started out with the structure, but we didn't really understand what the theme was quite yet. So we were talking a lot about that, and it was sort of just us throwing out stories. And the thing that I've noticed about Paul is typically the thing that I don't think I have enough information on, or the thing that I don't think is most interesting, he'll be like, why didn't you lead with that? Like he'll be like, what do you, because that one and the engagement story, I texted him because he was like, okay, we need something in the middle of your life where like, he was like, I don't think it has to be that long. I think it can be like 5 to 7 minutes, but like, what are you, like, can you think of anything like in the middle of your life that would be like kind of a like anxiety sort of thing? And I was like, I mean, like I watched somebody make my engagement happen in front of me. And I think I actually screenshotted his text because he texted back in all caps and was like, what? Like, say more words. So it was a lot of like throwing stuff at the wall and then having Paul there to guide me and remind me that it actually fit into the plot.
Right. Well, the idea of like, oh, this thing that happened to me actually is really bonkers and fits into a play. and is something other people might want to hear about. I
Yeah.
think that that's the thing that interests me so much in solo performance, because I've personally never written for solo performance, is like, or from a personal narrative. It's like, well, how do you figure out what's interesting? So it's cool that you had that sounding board with Paul,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh yeah, that experience was extraordinary. I
Yeah.
think that's super interesting.
Thank you. I
Great,
think we have
yeah.
so many, we have so little kind of perspective from our own lives that we're just like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this random thing happened, and you don't have
Right.
somebody to be like, what, until you have a sounding board there.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your work, about causes you care about, before we sign off?
Um, guys, we only got 2 days left. If you can keep like using the fringe to have a break, everything's really difficult right now, but supporting artists, I promise they'll be so thankful for it. But like I said, I'm just going to reiterate it again. Before you watch any show, before you do anything, even if it's only $1, like donate to a Black artist and donate to the Cincinnati Bail Fund, and just like, let's keep like working for a better world, y'all, because the revolution is a marathon and not a sprint. And let's just do this all together, because that's the best way you can support my work, is by supporting other artists of color. So please do that.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. It was great to talk to you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Keep watching. Just a couple more days, and I will see you for my last talk back tomorrow at 8 o'clock for Lady Macbeth and her pal Megan, which will be very, very fun.
It's
Um,
so good. Everybody go watch
so
it.
good. Thank you very, very much, Alex, and thank you all for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.